Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the Chen Foundation Meditation Town Hall. We're pleased to have Roger Walsh leading this. And before we introduce him, let's take a look at what we've got coming up. This Tuesday coming up is a member appreciation event. This is one of the benefits of membership. It also falls on Giving Tuesday. So it's a good day to exercise that number one perfection of generosity. And it's not too late. If you're not a member, it's not too late to become a member. I will send the URL later via chat where you can click and become a member or leave a donation. We appreciate whatever you can help us with. And also coming up, we have the next masterclass where you get to kind of hear the Lama talk about his teachers. I'm definitely looking forward to that one. That's coming up December 9th and at 11 a.m. We hope to see you there. Lama Roger, I'll ask you to take it from here.
Okay, well, thanks so much, Mel, and welcome everyone. And let's take a moment to just dedicate our time together, aspiring, praying, hoping, wishing, committing that we use our time together to learn, to heal, to open, to cultivate all the beneficent qualities of heart and mind for our own well-being and also to make us optimal instruments for the welfare and awakening of all. May it be so. Well, we have just celebrated Thanksgiving. And of course, as with any concept or ideas, there are many ways of interpreting this and many perspectives on it. But one way is to take it as a reminder and practice of the beautiful quality of heart and mind of gratitude. And so Thanksgiving can be, of course, it is many things, because it's a symbol, and symbols are what are called polyvalent. They have many meanings depending on how we stand and how we interpret them. But one interpretation is definitely, it can be a reminder of gratitude practice. I'd like to begin by reading a story from the late Houston Smith. And Houston Smith was one of the great religious scholars of the 20th century. Died about a decade ago. But he was different from the religious scholars of his time because unlike almost every other religious scholar, Houston did something very radical. He actually practiced the different traditions. So I have been to the meetings of the American Academy of Religion, and they have gotten better, but it used to be, they just took boredom to new heights. They used to be extremely cerebral, intellectual analyses of theological pinheads and angels, etc., etc., etc. But Houston was an anomaly. Houston was the major person to introduce the world religions to the West through his program on the world religions and later through his book, The World's Religions, which has sold, I think, some 3 million copies. Unbelievable. And Houston spent a better part of a decade with several different traditions and immersed himself in all the world's great traditions. He was born in China and so started there, but his parents were Anglican missionaries, Christian missionaries, and so that was part of his heritage. He became a clergy. But when he came to his Buddhist phase, he went to Zen, deeply into Zen, and went to Japan, one of only two monasteries where the Roshi spoke English. And talked his way in there because the Roshi was not interested in having spiritual tourists. And this is what he wrote at the end of his extremely arduous, I think a couple of months long practice period. And the last week of the practice period, most of the monks was spent without sleep for most of the monks. Though as a Sybaritic Westerner, Houston was allowed 3 hours per night. Everything in the monastery was very formal, and so after that week, Houston went to pay his regards to the teacher Goto Roshi, from whom he says, quote, "A Marine sergeant could have learned a few things." And Goto Roshi met him at the door of his hut, and Houston, of course, knowing how formal everything was in Zen, went there dressed formally and expecting a formal ritual, and Goto Roshi opened the door in his bathrobe, welcomed him in, showed him the television, asked, "Well, do you like sumo wrestling?" "You don't? Oh, too bad. It's so much fun." And Houston got it. He was knocking himself off a pedestal. But then Goto Roshi proceeded to knock Zen off its pedestal. "Koans can be a useful exercise," he said, "but they're not Zen." And sitting in meditation, he went on, "That is not Zen. Then why had I been torturing myself with koans and body aerobatics, I wondered, and what the hell then was Zen?" Goto Roshi said, "You'll be flying home tomorrow. Don't overlook how many people will help you get home. Ticketing agents, pilots, cabin attendants, those who prepare your meals." He bowed and placed his hands together, demonstrating gasho, the gesture of gratitude. Then he did a gasho to me. "Make your whole life one of unceasing gratitude," he said. What is Zen? Simple, simple, so simple. Infinite gratitude towards all things past. Infinite service to all things present. Infinite responsibility to all things future. Have a safe journey home. And he gave me a wonderful smile. "I'm so glad you came." What a beautiful, beautiful Zen Thanksgiving story. And that was part of Houston's exquisite autobiography titled Tales of Wonder, which he published on his 90th birthday, which is probably a good time to publish an autobiography. And so gratitude, why gratitude? Well, because gratitude is one of the positive qualities of heart and mind. And gratitude has a number of effects. Gratitude, when you're feeling gratitude, it melts obstacles and destructive mind states such as greed or anger and if you're feeling gratitude, it undoes the feeling of scarcity out of which we so often operate. If you're feeling gratitude, it's hard to hold anger and grudges. If you're holding gratitude, it tends to undo fear. So it undoes these destructive qualities of heart and mind. And it also is a supportive quality for qualities of mind such as love and compassion. So gratitude practice is a practice unto itself, which can be very powerful and very beneficial. So that's the context. Gratitude as both a means to the cultivation of the qualities and states of mind and awakenings that we seek, and an expression of them. So, how to cultivate gratitude? Well, there are lots of different ways, of course. We do it, there's a traditional practice in the Western tradition of saying grace, just of taking a moment to be thankful before we eat anything. And that's a beautiful one. And it's wonderful to just build gratitude in as a practice that one does several times during the day. When a few years ago now, my wife was asked what was her spiritual practice by some friends when we were having lunch. And she said, "I'm practicing gratitude." And a few hours later, with completely out of the blue, she was dead. Had an aortic dissection. 5 minutes after we arrived at a friend's place for dinner, she had chest pain and dizziness. 5 hours later, the cardiac monitor beeped to a stop in the emergency room. And so, because those were now some of, she'd said before that she was practicing gratitude, but since they were now some of the last words she ever sent, they went in very deeply. Now, it didn't take many mornings of waking up and realizing that I could allow the mind to go down the road of poor me, I'm alone, no Frances, she's dead, she's gone, I'm alone. Or I could do a reflection as the first thing in the morning as I woke up. I have a roof over my head, I have resources, I have friends, I have help, I have support. It didn't end the grief, but it sure did stop all the secondary arrows, all the painful rumination that comes on top of those raw feelings of grief. And from that day on, gratitude's been the first thought of the morning. As I come out of sleep, I just begin to think, okay, thank you for, and it's a long list. You might like experimenting with it. It sets a tone for the day. It directs the mind along a certain positive path. And it reminds us just how fortunate we are. So those are a couple of gratitude practices. And then there are reflections we can do, such as reflecting on our interconnection and the way we are dependent on or interdependent with so many others, in fact, all others. So what I'd like to do is just take a few minutes actually, to do a gratitude practice. We'll use that as our foundation, and then we'll move into awareness. But let's start with the gratitude practice. Well, let's take a moment first just to reflect on what the Tibetan Buddhists call our free and well-favored lives. That is, our lives which are free of the major obstacles and blocks which would preclude us being able to practice. We are free of the tyranny which would dictate that we practice one religion. We are free, or largely free, of the health obstacles to get in our way to practice. We are favored with energy and time and resources and an internet and teachers and teachings. We have all the things necessary for us to do the practices to awaken. Each of us has a free and well-favored life, a rare gift in this world. And we can be grateful for so much more. We can be grateful, for example, to this Sangha, this community, that allows us to meet and share these teachings. We can be grateful, for example, for the technology that allows us to meet. And if we think, most of us are sitting in front of electronic miracles, computers, iPads, iPhones, miracles that somehow enable us to be with each other around the country and around the world. So if we just take a moment to be grateful for these instruments which allow us to connect, and then take a moment to think of all the people who are involved in manufacturing them. Somehow these computers were put together by technicians and workers in factories, perhaps scattered around the world. And they were transported here by people on ships and trucks. They were put in stores. So many people putting these instruments in stores, selling them. And then there are people who make it possible for those processes. There are people, tens, hundreds of thousands of people involved in producing the fuel for the trucks. Again, a worldwide network of people drilling for oil, transporting it, refining it. And behind the factories, an endless network of people mining ores, refining them, preparing them, creating constituents of computer chips and other electronics. And they would not have been able to do without what they did to bring these instruments to us without an extraordinary network of people providing food to them and to us. And behind them, a boundless number of people creating tractors and farm equipment. And behind them, people creating clothes and supplies. And as we really open our minds, we see that we are the beneficiaries of a boundless network of contributors, of benefactors. And it's hard to see a boundary on the number of those benefactors. And it becomes apparent that for us to meet and commune and learn together like this is interdependent with a boundless network of people. Probably in some way, directly or indirectly, most of the people on the planet. We are sustained. We meet here. We learn, we heal, we grow together through the gifts and grace of a boundless network of our fellow humans. Right now, we are the recipients of the benefits of a boundless network of our fellow humans. And if we reflect on the people before us who enabled us to meet, people invented computer chips and computer screens and cameras and microphones and speakers. Every one of these was a major technological breakthrough. Electricity, light, if we open our awareness to the reality of our situation, we realize that we are graced by the sweat of generations upon generations of people who forged and moved forward civilization and technology, so that we are the beneficiary of generations of people before us. Now, without their work, without their inventiveness, without their labor, we would not be meeting. So we are the beneficiaries of boundless network of people alive today. We are the beneficiary of a boundless chain of people before us, whose labor made and inventiveness and genius made our meeting possible. And we are here because of our forebears. Thousands of generations of our forebears, our ancestors, struggled and suffered just to stay alive in very difficult circumstances. They struggled to bear and nurture their children. Many mothers died in childbirth. Yet somehow our forebears survived and nurtured us, despite hardship, hunger, often oppression, ever-present disease. Some of our great-great-great-grandmothers probably died giving birth to our forebears. Some of our great-great-great-grandfathers probably died defending us. If a single one of our forebears had given up, had failed to protect and nourish us, we would not be here. We would simply not exist. We're indebted to a chain of thousands of generations of forebearers and benefactors. So we are the beneficiaries of a boundless network of living benefactors. We are the beneficiaries of an historical chain of countless generations of benefactors, and we are the beneficiaries of a chain of thousands of generations of forebears. All this necessary and allowing us to sit here, to be together, to share, to learn, and to awaken. Make your life unceasing gratitude, Gosha Roshi said. What is Zen? Simple, simple, so simple. Infinite gratitude towards all things past. Infinite service to all things present. Infinite responsibility to all things future. I am glad you're here. So this reflection gives us a very different sense of ourselves, our lives, and at this moment. So what does this call us to? Well, perhaps it moves us to hold this perspective at times, to periodically reflect on our interdependence, to take a moment at times during the day to cultivate gratitude for our good fortune, our free and well-favored lives. And perhaps it moves us, as gratitude does. One of the other benefits of gratitude that I forgot to mention is that it's one of the qualities of heart and mind which desires to share its well-being. Love and joy and gratitude want to be shared. They inspire us to share our good fortune. And when you come from a place of gratitude and with its sufficiency and wholeness, you approach other people out of a desire to share your well-being, to share your beneficence, instead of coming towards another people wanting to get something. And once you know that difference, you can feel it in yourself, and you can feel whether someone's coming at you wanting to get something or to share something. Very different feelings. So through practices like this, we recognize our interdependence. And we grow in life from childhood dependence to, in adolescent, often a counter-dependency, that is, trying not to be dependent even though we are, to adult independence. But that's not the height of development. The further recognition is to recognize our interdependence. And beyond even that, we recognize our unity. So the trajectory of life can move from dependence to counterdependence to true independence and on to unity. So you might like to just take a moment to reflect on what it would be like to go out into life with a sense of gratitude and fullness, desiring to share your gifts and blessings. And you might see if there's just reflect and see, is there a quality of heart and mind that would enable you to be more effective in approaching people in order to share, to help, to heal, to contribute. And as you think of that quality, think of somebody who embodies that quality, who's a real example of that quality. And invite you to see that person in front of you, this person who embodies this quality, which would enable you or strengthen you to be a reservoir of well-being and gratitude and joy, and to be able to share that with people you meet. And now imagine that person melting inwards until they become a little ball of radiant light. And bring that light over your head. Let it come down through the crown chakra, down the central channel, the spinal cord, into your heart. When it reaches your heart, let it explode through your body-mind, filling it with that light and that quality. And this quality is now one of your great strengths. And what's it feel like to embody that quality? And you might like to see what body posture and muscle tensions are associated with that quality. And you might like to exaggerate that body posture a little bit, just as a way of truly embodying this quality. Beautiful. And now, with the heart mind filled with these qualities, or whatever qualities they're filled with, and we should note that gratitude practice is just like every other practice. You either get when you're practicing a positive quality of heart and mind, what you'll get is two things. You get either that quality you're cultivating, or you get rising into awareness the blocks and barriers in the way. And either is part of the path. If you get the positive quality, the gratitude, the joy, for example, wonderful, enjoy them. If you get contraction, fear, perhaps, also fine, experience them, open to them, really let them bring awareness to them. Let them be in awareness. And awareness in and of itself is healing. In the light of awareness, they will begin to open and unravel and release. Beautiful. Enjoy. And now with those, whatever qualities of heart and mind are present, just embrace those in open awareness. Raise the gaze a little bit. And relax with awareness. And now, as you're relaxed with awareness, really be aware. Really be aware. Bring another level of alertness and clarity and precision and presence to the awareness. Notice how much alert and more present you can be. What we want is not just ordinary awareness, but awakened awareness, sharp, clear, present, lucid, bright. You want your awareness to be really present, really alert. It doesn't take strain, it just takes a little sharpness, intention, just a little. Not a striving, not a struggle, not a contraction, but just really here, really present, really noticing. And for a moment, you might like to close your eyes and just notice awareness throughout the body. Notice awareness filling the body. And notice the environment around you. Just be aware, awareness in the body, environment around. Just notice that. And now notice the body in awareness. Notice the body floating in awareness. And notice the environment is arising within awareness. Everything arising within awareness. Sharp, clear awareness. And probably want to open your eyes again. Just notice. Still, the body in awareness, the environment in awareness, everything within awareness. Where else could we be experiencing anything? Beautiful. And just check your posture. Make sure the back is relatively erect and the rest of the body relaxed. And it's that combination of relaxed alertness, which is what we want. But we want something also more, not just relaxed alertness, but really a relaxed, alert, present, really present, sharp, hyper alert, catching every experience. Awareness open in every direction. Really present now. Aware of everything, but not having to change anything. Good. And just check, just see, is there a way in which you can sharpen your awareness more now? So you're really present, not by struggle, not by strain, but just by sheer presence. And as we come towards the end of our sitting, take a moment to reflect. Bring the intellect back online, but with awareness. Do it consciously. And just take a moment to reflect on, were there any insights you had, anything that you learned that you really want to remember? And was there something you learned about how to practice that you really want to remember? And you might even give a name to these if you want. Name the insight. Now take a moment. You might put your screen on gallery and just take a moment to look around at our community. I just realized that in addition to all the countless beings whose work made it possible for us to have these amazing and magical instruments that enable us to see and be with each other, we wouldn't be together, we wouldn't have a group if it wasn't for every one of these people. We wouldn't have a Dzogchen Foundation. We wouldn't be able to meet like this. So just allow yourself to feel grateful for these people. Well, without them, we wouldn't be here together. And now, take a moment to reflect on the fact that every single person in this community is feeling grateful for you. Let that in. Every single person in this community is feeling grateful to you, and appropriately. And thank you so much for all the work you've done, and the practice you've done, and the efforts you've made, and the sacrifices you've made in order to practice as you have, and to give this time and be available to learn and to share. So in our boundless web of gratitude, we can include each other and be aware that we also are appreciated and people are grateful to us. Oh. So, that feels good. So, would anyone like to share a comment or question? please.
Lama, we do have a question that's come in asking you to perhaps repeat the quote and the source for the Roshi who talked about gratitude for the past, responsibility for the future. That quote.
Yeah, that was Goto. The interaction was between Houston Smith and Goto Roshi, and it's from Houston Smith's autobiography titled Tales of Wonder, which, as I mentioned, was published on his 90th birthday, which is a great time for an autobiography. And to repeat the quote, so after Goto Roshi had knocked himself off the pedestal, and Houston says he then proceeded to knock Zen off its pedestal. Koans can be useful exercise, he said, but they're not Zen. Sitting in meditation, he went on, that is not Zen. Then why had I been torturing myself with koans and body aerobatics, I wondered. And what the hell then was Zen? You'll be flying home tomorrow, Goto Roshi said. Don't overlook how many people will help you get home. Ticketing agents, pilots, cabin attendants, those who prepare your meals. He bowed and placed his hands together, demonstrating gasho, the gesture of gratitude. Then he did a gasho to me. Make your whole life unceasing gratitude, he said. What is Zen? Simple, simple, so simple. Infinite gratitude towards all things past. Infinite service to all things present. Infinite responsibility to all things future. Have a safe journey home. And he gave me a wonderful smile. I'm glad you came. Oh. Yeah, so please, anyone like to share or comment or question? Oh. Don't be shy. Let's see, Edward. Edward?
Okay, Edward.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You should now be able to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I forgot. Thank you. Yeah, I'm just now thinking that I've been thinking that attachment and aversion on its subtlest level, I mean, is the problem. And then, one thinks of neti and so forth. And so to reconcile that, well, intelligent detachment from attachment and aversion with the appreciation that's implied with gratitude for everything. I mean, it seems like there could be some conflict there, but I mean, I don't really think so. But it's just something that springs to mind. I don't know if you have any comment about that.
Yeah. Well, so I can understand why it would look as though appreciating gratitude might fuel craving and attachment, but somehow, as with so many healthy qualities, it seems to be the opposite. That is, when we feel so much of our craving comes out of a sense of lack or insufficiency or deficit. And gratitude is a feeling which we can all test this for ourselves. It's more in a sense of fullness, of wholeness, of completion. And so it tends to actually kind of undercuts that compulsive deficiency-based craving. So it's a very healing quality of heart and mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Roger. I think it's about time to wrap up.
Okay, well, indeed, and you probably have something you want to say, Mel, but maybe just deep gratitude to everyone here, and I see flower and hands. Yay. Yes, thank you, Julie. And thank you all for being here and making our time together possible. And may all that we have shared and learned and seen and cultivated, may it all serve our well-being and awakening, and through us, the welfare and awakening of all.